was on our birthday back when.
2000s, those were the kids, those were the days.
Yeah, that's true.
The stories we always try to kick people in the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to, because they would be sitting naked in the health club while everyone else was gone. They wouldn't get off the court till 10 o'clock.
Ready to get started?
Like to receive life comes
Full attention.
Whoever we were, all of
Good to see you, bro.
we served on his team.
What?
We served as his team.
Yelling Army.
Oh, Angel Lady?
Oh, yes.
Angel Lady.
On the verge.
All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome into Majors and Quiz. My name is Matthew, and I'm an events operator as well as a bookseller here at the store. And I just want to go ahead and extend a thank you to everybody for joining us this evening. As an independent bookseller of books here in Uptown especially, we really cannot do what we do without your support. Even just being here with us tonight, even if you don't make a purchase, thank you for being part of our community and helping us further our mission of keeping literature cool here in Minneapolis, St. Paul. So yeah, thank you. And as well, on behalf of our author, thank you as well for any purchases you should make tonight. Yeah, so brief rundown how tonight's going to run. I will get through my very brief introduction. Don't worry, I'll be out of your hair shortly. And we will move on to reading and presentation from our featured author this evening. Following that, a bit of Q&A as well.
It's within the
Perfect.
presentation.
Yeah.
Good chance.
So yeah, if you have any questions, hold on to them. We will get to them. Don't worry. Following the presentation, we will be adjourning from this space and moving on up forward to the front room, where you passed a glass countertop, which has copies of the book, where you will be able to get them signed, as well as ask any further questions and have a one-on-one with our author. And speaking of, did you know that you can transform your life by making changes in your home? Our speaker, Julie Ann Segal, has owned and operated a professional interior design firm for over 30 years. She is also a certified feng shui consultant and has appeared multiple times on HGTV and has become the local go-to person for creating beautiful and functional spaces. She has helped hundreds of people just like yourself to make specific life-enhancing changes to their homes. But more important than that is, as a mother of 4, she has been able to use these principles in her own home. Today, you're going to learn a few of her favorite techniques for living a more enjoyable and productive life. Everybody, please join me in welcoming our featured author.
Move this over a bit. So think about your home. Everybody got that? Or their favorite room in your home. Does it reflect who you are today, who you want to become, or are you living in the past? Now, I want you to hold on to those thoughts while I go through my presentation today. But we're going to switch gears for a moment. I want you to find the piece of paper that I have on your chair. There should be a pen there too. And it says at the top of the page, what would you like to change in your life? So I want you to take a minute. We're just going to take 1 minute, and I want you to write down 1 or 2 things that you'd like to change in your life. Now, this could also be what you want to have in your life. So it could be anywhere from a new car to I want peace and security, or whatever it is that you want in your life right now. So just take 1 minute and write down 1 or 2 things. And then later you'll find out how that relates to your home. And it's okay if you don't want to change anything. So who would be willing to share some of the things they wrote down? Anybody? Anybody, Nance?
I wrote stay in the flow more.
Yep.
So
That's
stay
a good one.
longer in the flow.
Flow.
When things are working well, it seems like I have a day of things are working great, one thing flows into the next, and
I
it
know,
just
I
feels
love
like at
those
the end,
times.
yeah.
Reminds me of my son today. He says, I just wasn't having such a good day. Couldn't go, like he wasn't having a flowing day. So
Yeah.
I said, some days are just like that. It's okay, it'll get better.
So I would like to lengthen
Lengthen
it.
those times. Okay, great. So today you're gonna pick up some simple and practical ways, using my feng shui approach. I call it feng shui because a lot of times people are intimidated by feng shui, and I like to take this art of placement with full service interior design and make it really fun for my clients. You're also gonna discover a way to create more energy, breathing room, and time. So I'm gonna give you that, and in addition, I'll read a few selections from my book, Change Your Space to Change Your Life. So what gets me excited about what you're gonna learn today is that, and through reading my book, is that if you apply these tools to your life, you're gonna learn to live with more flow and ease, and therefore you will allow yourself to create more harmony, balance, and create your ideal life when you're living that way. Isn't that right? So as I mentioned before, I call my approach the feng shui way, and that what that also means is that I use 5 feng shui principles. There's my feng shui way. The 5 feng shui principles, the first one is everything is energy and everything is connected. And so I'm just gonna read a little bit of a couple paragraphs of chapter 1 when I talk about energy. There's a common misunderstanding that material objects are inherently unspiritual. However, our material possessions can carry profound importance to us, and we can tap into their energy or chi through mindfulness. This chapter will provide a primer on how energy flows through space and the way it affects our lives. Energy exists in and between everything in the world. Anything you can touch, your coffee table, your dog, the lemon on your counter, your foot, is composed of atoms. Atoms are constantly in motion with electrons whirling around neutrons and protons. This constant motion, this energy, is everywhere on Earth, including in our homes. And it is energy that can make us feel either connected to or disconnected from any given space. The philosophy of feng shui emphasizes that everything is energy and everything is connected. Quantum physics has shown us that our entire world, and indeed the known universe, is composed of energy. We are surrounded by an energy field that experiences constant motion and vibrations. Feng shui consultants have understood energy, also called qi, intuitively for thousands of years, and the study of quantum physics is beginning to prove what feng shui consultants have long known. We are all part of a great universal energy field and are intimately connected to each other and to our surroundings. So have any of you had the experience where you thought of someone that you hadn't seen or talked to in a very long time, and all of a sudden you get a phone call from them, or you run into them out at the store? Have you all had that experience? That is where, that's energy connection. We're connecting to them on a different level, and which causes us to collide. That's the only way I can explain it. So the next one is your space is a reflection of your life. So if your external environment is not in sync with who you are, if it's unbalanced or cluttered, that can cause havoc in your life. Space should be organized as it is in nature, meaning that it should flow. There's something in my book which is called biophilic design. Have any of you heard of that? It's a relatively newer concept, but it's all about bringing nature into your space and the effects that has on you, very positive effects it has on your life when you bring nature into your space. Now this next one, clutter causes confusion. Clutter does so much more than just cause confusion. But have you ever felt that it was chaotic in your office and you realized also internally you felt chaotic? So I want you to think about that, because sometimes when you declutter and get things in order, then you can start to feel more at peace when you take the time to do that and only live with the things you use and love. Next one is your desires allows your intentions to come forth. So this is all about getting clear on what you want. I know there's a lot of people that go around, they want to be happy, but they don't even know what it is they want. So, I teach vision board class, and a lot of times that helps people to get into a very a much better space on figuring out what it is they want so they can put images on a board to help manifest or help make things happen. So one of the principles, as I just mentioned, is everything is energy and everything is connected. And let's see, what that means is actually how space makes you feel can actually have an impact on how you show up in the world. So imagine, I want you to imagine a room like this. So close your eyes if you want, but imagine going into a musty smelling basement with stained Berber carpet, stark white walls that are nicked up, very little windows, maybe a little lamp in the corner and kind of a dilapidated sofa. There's books and papers thrown around the room because there's nowhere for storage, and there's no art on the walls. So how would it make you feel to spend time in a room like this? Does anybody have some adjectives?
Prisoner.
Prisoner, yeah, closed in. Anything else come up? Maybe cold or depressed or sad. So let's switch gears and imagine this. So plush carpet, maybe a buttercream color on the walls, bigger windows with blinds that actually control the light, draping panels with fabric that you love, a big sectional with an ottoman you can put your feet up on, nice credenza and storage pieces that store all your personal belongings. Maybe there's overhead lighting and lamp lighting and reading lighting all within that room, and art on the walls that you absolutely love. Maybe some plants too. So how does a space like this make you feel if you spend time there? Is it different? Does it feel different? Happy. Much happier. So imagine going into a meeting after you spent time in the space that made you feel sad and depressed. That energy follows you out of the room and into your relationships, whether it's with your spouse, your kids, or even the grocery clerk. So I want you to look down at the changes you want to make, and this may sound crazy, but one way you can change your space to change your life is to just change one room in your home. And I'm going to give you an example on how a client did this. I'm going to talk to you about John and Sarah. So when I met John, he was in his late 40s, very successful guy. The house was in Edina, smaller. I think it was an older home, but very nice. It just needed some work. And when I met John, he said, Julianne, my fear is that now he just got newly divorced. I think I forgot to say that. Newly divorced. So he said, Julianne, when my biggest fear is that my daughter Sarah is now not going to want to spend time in my home with me. And we decided that we were just going to make a special room for her, and Sarah was on board. She said, okay, well, if we're going to do this, I really want a space where I could play games with my friends and have them over and have sleepovers, maybe a pool table, and I want purple walls, she said. So, I can understand his fear. Sarah was a delightful girl. She was probably 13 at the time, wore long brown hair, had braces, a very cordial smile, yet she had some attitude toward her dad. So I don't know if any of you have had teenagers or experienced that. They sometimes have that attitude. But so if John was sitting in this audience, he would have written down that he would want a better relationship with his daughter. And he could have maybe spent time communicating with her more, maybe taking her to dinner or even going to counseling. But instead, we decided to change one room in their home. And remember that room that I talked about, the musty smelling basement? Well, that was the actual room that we changed. That's exactly what it looked like and felt like. And I didn't even get the before picture, but right here is when we gutted it. It was so bad that we had to gut it. And 4 months later, after we designed the space, I got a call from John, and he said to me, he couldn't believe it. He's like, oh my gosh, Sarah is now having friends over. She's having sleepovers and parties, and they're having a great time, and now she's spending time in my home. So it actually worked. Do you want to see how that room turned out? here we go.
Oh,
This,
wow.
so I did the purple walls as she requested, but if I went all the way to the floor, it would have been too heavy. So I put a white wainscoting around the room. She got her pool table in there. I remember going to measure to make sure one would fit, and the sectional, a durable cocktail table. Across from that was a big screen TV. But then we also, there was a little corner spot there you can see on the right where it was just blank, and I said, let's just build it in a little snack center so they wouldn't have to go up and down the stairs all the time for drinks or some chips or whatever. We put that there, and the art on the walls was a very reasonable way to get some nice look. They are G-clays, which are, higher end prints, but probably less expensive than what we used to think of as a lithograph. And they're really nice, and even on those smaller graphic pieces, we were able to pick the graphic pieces and plug in exactly what colors we wanted to make it work. So it was really fun, and here's Sarah. She said, that's actually her, she said it's amazing, it turned out so much better than I imagined. And John was very happy. But then he decided he wanted to try and lure Sarah up the stairs. So we decided to work on the family room upstairs. And in the middle of that project, he got scared. I remember 6 weeks went by where he would not return my calls. And finally, when he did return my call, he said, what if I spend even more money and do this and nothing else happens? And we talked through it, we got through it, and he went forward, and fast forward another 4 months, I get a call from him, and he's like, I can't believe it, Sarah is now, we're spending time together. But before it was just the friends, well now they're watching sports together, watching movies, they're eating in there, and having a wonderful time. But before John started to decorate it, he tried decorating it himself once, and I'm going to show you what that looked like. So that's his decorations. The sofas did not fit the human body, so no one really wanted to sit in there, and they were, on the left-hand side is the kitchen, so it was very closed off. There's nowhere to walk through, and they're kind of messy looking. They're white, no one wanted to eat in there. The area rug was very cozy, but there had no visual impact. And look above the fireplace. There's a bunch of pictures. I'm sure they're lovely photographs, but there are too many pieces in a small space, and they're not balanced on the wall. So you don't really get the full effect of that. And then the TV's kind of awkwardly hanging there with a box on the floor, and that just doesn't feel good. So when we did this room, I'm going to show you what that looked like. So I opened up the space. We got a lot more seating. You're able to walk in now, and at one area of the sectional is open for easy TV viewing. I want you to look above the fireplace now, before and after. And now we did it, so that you can see it makes a visual impact. It feels better, it's more balanced. And when a space is more balanced, you're gonna feel more balanced in a space. When a space is more grounded, you're gonna feel more grounded. So one way we grounded the space is the TV, when it was hanging there like that, it didn't feel grounded. So it's still hanging there, but I designed a corner cabinet that just fit in there, and it feels like the TV's sitting on there, and we were able to put all his equipment in there, and it's just much visually cleaner. And then at Metro Interiors, we always put the floor plan with furniture arrangements on AutoCAD, or to give you different ideas on how things could work in the room. And if it works on paper, if it's drawn up correctly, it's going to work right in the room. So you can rest assured for that. And here's just a few more details. The rug, we were able to pick every color. It's hard to see all the colors in there, but we were able to pick every color, and it's wool. So wool cleans easier. It costs a little bit more, but it's going to last longer. It feels really nice, and it's green, non-allergenic. I like using those type of materials. So at this point, John's a believer, and he said, Julianne, just go do your feng shui thing, and hired me to do the dining room, and you can read the rest in the book, how it went from there. But today, Sarah is, this is already, the years just go by so fast, but I know she lives out in the East Coast, and she's a lawyer today, but I did talk to her dad recently, and they're still really close, and I'm sure this whole process helps. But the point I really want to make is not only did we remodel their home, but we remodeled their relationship, and it made it better and brought them closer. this is why I say you can change your space to change your life. So you can do this too, but look down at the things you wrote down and for your home or room, and think about your home or room, and does it feel good? You know, are there areas that are dark, heavy, or stagnant in your home? You know, think about the changes you want to make and how that, you know, would affect you and what your desires are. Because I am here to tell you, like I said, you can change your space to change your life. Sometimes it may be adding just a bench where there wasn't a bench before, or a mirror to expand an area, or even plants. You know, plants just feel good as long as you're willing to take care of them. In feng shui, we don't want to have dead plants, and we don't even want to have dried plants. Dried plants are like dead energy. So you've got to be willing to take care of the live ones, or do silk and latex and keep them clean. That's that. So these are some of the more practical ways to change your space, to change your life. There is another way that seems like a little bit more magical, and it's called working with the feng shui bagua. Have you, any of you heard of the feng shui bagua?
From you.
Yeah, I know you have. Todd knows all about the bagua. That's my ex-husband. Thank you for being
You
here.
gave it away. It was kind of 10 numbers.
I talk about my
I
divorce.
walked in and said, "Is Julie Segal speaking here?"
The husband of origin. The husband of origin.
I see fun. How many fingers?
Okay, so the feng shui bagua is a map that you lay over the floor plan of your home, and you divide it into 9 equal areas. And in these areas are all related to different life areas. So for example, you can find where the prosperity, what did I call that? Abundance and prosperity area is of your home, and you can make changes through color, through certain objects, and place them with the thought process to intend what you want to have happen in that area of your life. And it's amazing. I've worked with this for so many years, and it's amazing how things really happen, but you also have to get into that feeling of believing that it's really going to happen, and feel it out as if it already did happen. And I'm just going to read a few paragraphs once again about how I use the bagua after my divorce.
I'm gonna go on that note.
You are?
I gotta be someplace. else.
Okay, okay.
The husband of origin.
That was a perfect segue.
Okay. So after my divorce, I decided to start over when it came to furnishing my new home. I brought very little with me so I could surround myself with fresh new ideas and the things that mattered most to me. If you have ever been through a divorce or know someone who has, you know financial and emotional hardship usually comes with it, and I was no exception. It was important that my new space would support me in these 2 areas. With this in mind, I began seeking new accommodations. By then, I was very familiar with using the feng shui bagua, a map that corresponds to different life areas that can be laid over the blueprint of a space. Having this knowledge and understanding how to use the bagua helped me choose a space that fit my particular needs rather than a space that would pull me down or hinder my efforts. A bagua map is a grid composed of 9 distinct areas, each corresponding to a specific life energy that can be found in your home. When selecting my new living space, I chose an apartment that had a larger wealth area that jutted out from the main floor. This type of area is known as an extension and can give the occupants extra energy and blessings. Instead of going out and buying all the furniture I needed, I decided to prioritize investing in artwork. I could not do everything on my limited budget, and to me, art is the soul of the room and can be inspirational. When I am inspired, I do better work and am more prosperous. I intentionally purchased a piece of art for my new apartment's wealth corner that had vibrant, abstract flowers in tones of red, purple, yellow, and apple green. The energy of the brushstrokes, colors, and flowers jumping out of the vase exuded abundance and joy. My intention in placing it there was to joyfully create more wealth and abundance so I could purchase everything I needed to set up my new home. That year, my business quadrupled. I was able to furnish my apartment as I liked and more. I was even hired to redesign all 20 hallways in my apartment complex, which was an incredible opportunity for me and allowed me to feel even more at home in my new space. So do you think that would have happened if I had not made that intention? Those things, you never know. But I don't believe that was a coincidence. I really focused and put my intention into my home of what I wanted to happen, but I didn't tell the universe how it should happen, right? You know this. You just have, those are called the cursed hows. You just have to think about the end result. So I needed to know that I was going to be financially okay, and the universe delivered that to me in the way it did. I didn't like explain or try to micromanage it, how that would happen, because that's could be a disaster to do that. You have to let the energy flow. So let's see. So I want to, there's all this about the Bhagavad, and I want you to understand that my chapter 8 gives all the different guidelines in the book about the Bhagavad, because not every home is perfectly square like this, so you have to kind of learn the nuances to be able to lay it out. And if your home is really complicated with a lot of angles and round circles and things like that, then you may just want to hire a feng shui consultant to help you lay it out, because it can get complicated. But a lot of homes, for the information I have in the book, will fit this nicely. So however you want to do it, this is a great way to manifest, but I don't want to stop tonight without talking about decluttering, because that is like number one thing to do to feel good in your home. I'm going to tell you a story about a man I met, 25 years ago, named Ben. He was my mentor in the multi-housing industry. He's the one that got me started in designing apartment complexes. He owned a lot of them, and he knew people who owned them as well, who he referred me to. And I still do party rooms, lobbies, leasing offices, hallways, art hallways, things of that nature. And Ben, he likes to collect, besides apartment buildings, he collects cars, artwork, watches, and magazines. He had so many magazines piled up in his office, thinking that he's going to actually read them someday. Instead, they just caused a lot of distraction. So one day I got a call from him, and he said, oh my gosh, he was all freaking out. He had lost a car. Well, like, how do you lose a car? And most of us don't have this, but Ben had 40 cars. And whether it's 40 cars or 400 tchotchkes, it takes a lot of energy and time to track all this. So he would park them and buy spaces to rent all over the city, and he lived in 2 cities, so they were in 2 cities, so it doesn't surprise me that he lost a car. So another time we were driving around the cities from apartment to apartment, just going, and I was consulting with him that day on the changes we were going to make in these different places, and he said, I want to run away to a desert island. So have you ever felt that way, that you actually want to run away? I took it as he wanted to run away from his responsibilities. So he said, I have so much anxiety, and I feel drained. And so what was happening is material possessions were taking over his life. So also, say, the more material possessions, the more worry. And he knew I was a feng shui interior designer, so he asked me what I actually, what he could do. He wanted advice. And so that day I gave him advice, and he ended up hiring, at the time I had an assistant who would go out and help people declutter physically, and so he hired her, and they did a lot in his home office, and when he was done, he says, I'm no longer living in a constant fear of anxiety. He said, I feel I have more freedom and clarity when he was done. And over the years, he would talk about this over and over, because he learned something that day, and he would keep up on it and how much better he felt. So the advice I gave him that day was, the more stuff you own, the more energy it takes from you to take care of it, track it, store it, insure it, and clean it. If you want more time and energy, own less stuff. And he took that to heart. I haven't talked to him in a couple of years, so hopefully he's doing well. So I'm just going to go over some of the benefits of decluttering. So when you declutter, and when I say clutter, this is living with the things you use and love. The rest can go, and you will feel better. Some things you own don't have very nice things to say to you, so as you go through your stuff, listen to what the item says. It could be from an old relationship that didn't end nice, or, you know, a lot of different things where, or it's just not part of who you are anymore. You can let that go. You're gonna have more freedom, which is more room to breathe and move. Efficiency, you'll find yourself being more efficient and be able to think much quicker and better at the task at hand. Time, clutter slows us down, so you won't be in confusion looking for all these things. A lot of people save money because once they declutter, because they're not buying things over and over again. A lot of times we can't find it, so we just go buy it again. And then it just gets stacked up in our homes. Rest, it's hard to relax when there's too much space, too much stuff in a space, and you will have more energy. So some things you own take energy from you. For example, has anyone had like a knitting project they started like 5 or 6 years ago, and it's still sitting up in your closet and you've never finished it? So every time you open your closet, it kind of gives you a little bad feeling because it was something you started and never finished. So if you're decluttering, you decide, okay, I'm gonna finish it, and give yourself a time frame, or just let it go. And, you know, give it away to someone who might finish it, or throw it away if you have to, or just let it go. It'll make you feel better. And I just wanna also point out there are no hiding spaces when you're working with clutter and feng shui. So no basements or storage rooms or attics. Everything that you own, if it's in your possession, it does take up time and energy from you, whether you feel it consciously or subconsciously. So when you let go of certain things, you automatically feel freer. I'm sure you've had that experience, some of you, when you declutter. So, you know, what about keeping up on repairs? What if you had a bedroom door that didn't open properly, and every time you walk into your bedroom, you feel irritated? Is that the energy you want to bring into a bedroom? Irritation. You want it to feel peaceful. So it's important to keep up on repairs. And so I'm going to show you some before and afters, so you can feel out what it feels like when it's cluttered a little bit, and then what it feels like when it's decluttered. So this first one, we had already done some decluttering here, but you can see that things are kind of disorganized, and it still feels like clutter because nothing's really in its space. There was quite a bit more in there by the time I took a picture. I didn't have the full effect, but you'll see once we did declutter. She wanted to declutter and then add a few new accessories to give a fresh new look. And so if you can feel how much more peaceful, let's see, does that feel different when you look at that picture from the one before? It's more in balance, and it almost, if you can feel out that it makes you feel more balanced when you're in a space like that. This next one is a little bit of a little bit out there, but this is a kitchen pantry. Now most of us don't have pantries like this, but this was a real pantry we had to help someone with, and it just got out of hand. So we did it in 2 phases. This is probably more like what most of yours look like when it's still kind of cluttered. This was the first phase where we started to get rid of all the things that were outdated and not using and didn't like and whatever, and then we finally got down to what she actually needed and used. That was it.
Wow.
And she could, you know, use a few things, but think about how much easier and how much better you feel when you cook, and you in a kitchen like this. It just would be more ease and flow and finding what you need so that you can see everything. I had a client recently tell me that she purchased a whole spice organizing set, you know, and got it very organized so she can see exactly what spice, and, you know, even my cabinet's a little out of crazy because you gotta reach in the back and you don't see. And so she said that when she did that, she didn't realize this was gonna happen, but she ended up cooking a lot more, which also made it healthier. She ended up eating much healthier because she was cooking more, and it was all because she cleaned up her spices. So just even those little changes make a difference. So let's see, there's one more. This is Mary Beth's office. So when I went to their house, they knew they wanted to do a project, but they didn't know where to start. And when I noticed her home office, which she worked for a company full-time in this office, it was a little crazy because first of all I said, do you sit in this sofa ever? I thought maybe she took a break and laid in the sofa. No, I never have time for that. So it was kind of a catch-all space, and it was taking up time and cramping her, and this was right off of her living room, so every time she sits in her living room, she'd see this. So we decided, I suggested we start on The Office, and we did, and she did a lot. I was really proud of her. She did a lot of decluttering herself. She got rid of the sofa. When I made her aware that it didn't need to even be there, it was gone. She was very quick at doing that. We painted new color on the wall, and I'll show you what it looked like when we were finished in the space now that she works in. So it just feels nice, and it was, more on a budget too. So we can do, I've done offices where they're higher end and then on a budget, but they all give the same effect. And there is storage on her L shape of her desk. She does have some storage. If she wanted to be more comfortable and sit in a different chair, I'd put in just a nice upholstered armchair with a cozy rug under it. And she was an avid floral, gardener, so we put in a big painting with flowers in there and lightened up the blinds. And, she said, I absolutely love my new office. This is something about me and who I am. So I used some of the accessories that she loved, that she already had, and we played with those and got a nice look with those, added a few new things, and then they hired me to do the living room after that. So we got it all in. So life is constant change. So when something comes into your life, enjoy it, use it well, and when it's time, let it go. And doing this will free you up for the things that really matter. So one of the tools to use when you're decluttering your home is to look at different items and think, do I love it? Do I need it? And if you don't, maybe it's time to let that go. It's also a lot like losing weight and having to keep it off. Once you declutter, you have to put some different things in place so that you're, constantly doing that. And I do every other weekend, I'd say I declutter a little area that I feel is getting a little out of hand. But I think it's in my nature. I spent my childhood in my bedroom decluttering and moving my furniture around, so I came into this life doing this. But trying to help others, because I know it feels really good, and I think I feel energy, so I would feel that even as a kid. If you do this, you will feel less anxious and drained and have more energy and clarity. So John changed the space to have a better relationship with his daughter, and Ben decluttered to have more time, freedom, and clarity. And I use the feng shui bagua to create more prosperity and abundance in my life. And I just want you to know that you all can do this too. And I do have a few resources for you before we end today, but I just want to know, or I'll take one or two questions that you have, if anyone has questions on the things I discussed. Matthew?
So it's interesting because I get the New York Times. This is a Saturday email that I get in the morning. This is just August 19th from a person named Melissa Kirsch, and it was about the staycation. But one thing she talked about here was that she was talking about like the decluttering thing. And she says here, I keep thinking about the wise friend who told me that everything you buy makes everything you own less valuable.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
because you
wondering
have
what
to
you
be
think about
picky. When you, what was that?
Everything
Thing
you
you-
buy makes everything you own less valuable.
Because because I think she's saying if you buy a lot of stuff, then you won't have, like, I always say it's better to buy one really nice thing than 3 mediocre things.
Yeah.
So maybe it's that kind of
Maybe
concept.
that is, I just kind of thought that that's that whole like
That-
accumulation thing.
Yeah, the
So
whole
easy for us to do.
to do. And once you start thinking this way, it does ruin shopping a little bit, because now when I shop, I think, do I really love it? Am I gonna use it? How am I gonna get rid of it? Is it something that's easy to get rid of when I'm done with it? I think about it before I buy, because I only wanna buy things that I'm really gonna use, and when I bring things into my home, then I let go of something else many, many times. Maybe not every single time, but I do that every time. I bring in new shoes, I let go of old shoes, and the same I was just thinking I need to go get some new placemats, and I was thinking, do I have to let go of the old ones? I'm like, yes, to myself. I have to
Yes,
let
Julia.
Yes, I have to let go of the old ones. I'm gonna use the new ones, so it's okay. And I've had these for like 6 years, and it's time. They're kind of threads are coming out, and I've liked them, but it's okay. It's gonna, yeah.
So I've had like a lifetime worth of problems with, paperwork. Like I'm not a pack rat in any other aspect of my life, but with paperwork. And I do a lot of writing and research, and so I'm always like grabbing articles and thinking, oh, well, I have
I
these
know,
layers
I do
of,
the
you know,
same, right.
titles of categories
Mhm.
where I put
Well,
all
that's
these
good.
articles and everything, so it's organized.
Yes.
But I just am wondering if that's holding me back from anything.
No, I mean,
Okay.
they're organized. I would once in a while go through them and see if something doesn't make sense anymore.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go through them, because don't just collect them to collect them. You know, maybe every 3 to 6 months, if you haven't look through it, you might get an idea again. Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Okay.
You know, or I don't really need this. Let it
Okay.
go. So
So I'm
just,
feeling much better now. I'm
Good.
not feeling, you know, like, oh my God, maybe
No.
a problem over
no,
here.
you're doing the right thing. You just gotta go. I do that because I'll go through. That's why I declutter every 2 weeks. I find something. Like that would be one little project.
Yeah.
Because my house is pretty much decluttered, but then I'll have to do stuff like that to keep up on it.
Okay.
So
But I
you're
think
doing
we're
good.
in a transformative place where people like me, we're hard copy people, right? And I still
Oh,
don't have a
rather than
Kindle.
I'm trying
I was
to
thinking
Yeah,
we're
buy a
in
scanner.
We're in a bookstore,
Right,
right? Where
right.
I really want to
a
read
physical
the
book. It
physicality
feels good.
of it, or how it is in your
Mhm.
house, or, you know, I know people with thousands of books in their home, and
And
that's a decluttering part in itself too,
Yes.
except for you emotionally attached to all these different places and things you've learned or articles you read, and how that's so changed now because literally you have every possible piece of information you would ever want
on the internet.
on the computer,
Right.
let alone on your phone, literally. And, but you still can't shift from those things, and so, like when you talk about that and the physicality, or even if it's organized, but do you know every single thing in there, and why you would maybe go back to it, even if it's organized, where you could? And
Yeah.
that's, I think, that shifting space, or where you say, well, if I need that sometime, I can go look it up.
Yeah.
And I'm
Cause
also,
we're in a really interesting generational place, I think, about that.
Yeah.
one thing, I mean, it's harder in our generation to save things like electronically, but I'm starting to file things more electronically, like just forcing myself, and it's making a big difference too in my clutter, like with paper and stuff. I have different files, and you know, I still do both because there's certain things I want on paper, but I have it filed, you know, and everything. But then starting to use, you know, more files and consolidate things to have it right in the computer. But yeah,
Well, I'm like the book thing with you. One thing I find though is that if I look at my books and I say, okay, I've got all these books and I haven't read these, and will I ever read these?
Right.
And probably not.
Right.
One thing that helps me is if I can find a home, somebody's gonna appreciate this
Right.
book. It's much easier to
Mhm.
give it away.
yes, and that's a great point, that to go through your books and which ones that you really, really are gonna use and keep, and let go of others. I've had to do that several times because I love books too, and just let go, or, you know, give them to people, like you said, that you think could use it, or,
That makes it easier
Yeah.
to give it away.
Right.
If you think of someone who would appreciate it,
Appreciate it.
then that makes you feel better.
right. It feels good. And it's okay to let it go, and there's places like what's the bookstore? Yeah, to let go. You guys don't do that here.
We do.
You do? Oh,
Yeah.
so, that's
Mhm.
great to know.
And the library takes
So
a
they-
lot too,
yeah.
but that's where I became a very regular library user, because then I just wanted to buy the book, I didn't have to worry about storing it. I don't think I've ever reread a book except for anything Dr. Seuss wrote, or, you know, Goodnight Moon or something.
they
used
let
to
them
have a
know,
ton.
so that's good.
You don't anymore, because again,
Right.
People come over and they think she's illiterate.
Nancy. Oh, because you have no books?
you spell that for me.
Spell illiterate.
Well, it is kind of interesting though, right? I mean, it is just like, I mean, cause like, books is absolutely
No, it used to be
a
a
clutter
symbol
issue, right?
of your intellect.
But you know something? That computer is also a cluttered issue. Like you were talking about like saving documents and things like that, like I recently,
The ones you
Like-
need.
my coworker and I, we had a file folder, right, in Windows or whatever like that, and I just called it our junk drawer. Like we were just, throwing stuff in there. And so then I methodically put them into subfolders and all of that,
Right.
and we feel so much better. Like you think like that right there is gonna make you feel like less stressed, but it doesn't.
Well,
I mean, depending if it's like, if you got
it's how
everything
it
done.
is, how much
Exactly.
you have, because recently I took my computer into the Mac store and everybody, like one thing that I did have clutter with is my desktop, and people are
Yes.
like, oh my gosh, and I'm like, I'm that busy, I can't not do anything, but he said, create folders and put them in, take like 5 or 10 folders and put it in folders. So when I was on the airplane going back and forth from New York this past week, I did that and I feel so much better, and I cleaned it up and I'm actually finding things easier. So, and I combined folders together and named it one folder, and I know where to find it, and there's different folders in there. So it just, and then my desktop's cleaner and it's like, and I'm finding things easier. So I'm learning how to work with the computer in that way myself. So right now I'm just gonna give you a few more resources. If you're, not signed up for my newsletter, I don't know if some of you are on it and some of you are not, but if you sign up at metrointeriors.com and scroll down to the bottom of my page, you can put your name in, and I send out every other month a newsletter with tips and stories, before and after pictures with the stories of the projects and other design and feng shui related articles.
They're wonderful.
Thank you. And then, let's see, I'm also on Facebook. I can look here, follow us on Facebook, Metro Interiors, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Sometimes I'm showing the whole story as I go through it and design a space, so you can see the before, in the middle when we're doing construction, and then of course the after, and I'll do the big story in the newsletter. And also I'm sometimes doing different events like this, so you can find out about those there as well. So also activate the change with my book, Change Your Space to Change Your Life. And in the back of talking about books, in the back of yours, I have a whole bibliography of some of my favorite books and recommendations for you in the back, so you can see some of the books that have really inspired me over the years, and hope that it will for you too. I also want to offer a special discount on a 2-hour in-home consultation if anyone is interested today. Normally it would be $450 for a 2-hour consultation, and I take $100 off if you pay for that today, and then I would call you within 3 business days to set that up. And in this, today we talked about things in a general sense, but in this consultation, I'll see what your ideas are and thoughts and what you wrote down on your paper, and we're gonna walk through your house with those lenses on. And, what do you wanna get rid of, what do you wanna keep, what colors do you wanna use? I always do my paint colors, talk about furniture arrangement, whatever it is that you want to talk about, and redecorating or remodeling. And if you're interested in talking to me further about doing a project, we could talk about that too at the end of the consultation. So, let's see. I wanna thank Majors and Quinn, first of all, for having me here tonight. It's really special to be here. This is my old neighborhood for quite a few years before I moved to Plymouth, so I love being here. Thank you. And thank all of you. A lot of you are my friends. I see one person I wanna get to know. What is your name?
Linda.
Linda, okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So I thank everyone for coming out and supporting me tonight. I appreciate it. I hope you got something from this. And I just have one last thought for you, and that is to make a change, you must be willing to commit, and then you must be willing to take inspired action. So thank you. I'll be signing books with you.
Good job, Julie.